All right. Welcome to my video. This is Jeremy again. I just want to start by saying, of course, it's been a few days, so I haven't shaved or cleaned up in that sense. And I'm also working with some new hardware with a microphone and headphones, so bear with me. But I began my search using the same terms as previous searches. I used indentured servitude and slavery, and then, of course, I added South Carolina to the mix. And I found that those keywords often returned about 3 articles when I used it in this database. I removed indentured from the initial part of it and just used servitude, and I received only about 2 additional articles. One was actually a repeat of one of the initial journals. I then removed South Carolina and received about 160 new results. So the key is that South Carolina was limiting potentially what was happening or what I was receiving. So obviously the key is to focus on the primary sources and then the search sources within those articles for more reference. So the reference within the reference is going to be kind of key for me if I use this database. But the 3 articles I did find, the first was Captives and Slaves. The second was the development of mastery and race in the comprehensive slave codes of the Greater Caribbean during the 17th century. And the last was Servant or Slave, South Carolina's Inherent Labor Dilemma. So the first article was focused more on Virginia and their associated origin of slavery. The article goes through several key elements, Indian slaves and servants during the first 100 years of Virginia's history. The native laborers often entered the colony as prisoners, but Indian bondage was more about cultural than it was economic. So the intent was to integrate them into a Christian society. So with that integration, this is going to lead to an increased number of African slaves given the conversion and the acculturation that's going to occur in this setting. The second article focused more on the legal aspect of slaves and slavery in the British colonies during the 17th century. And they go on to address the articles, or the article goes on to address rather the Jamaican Slave Act of 1684 rather, Barbados legislation that occurred in 1661, and then in 1691 Slave Code of South Carolina, the 1664 slave legislation in Jamaica, and the 1676 Bacon's Rebellion that we're all familiar with. So this article focuses a lot just on the idea of what different legal course of actions, I guess, that were taken over the 17th century. The last article focused on the Barbadian settlers in South Carolina and the economy and cultures associated with them. And interestingly enough, the Barbadian popularized the use of enslaved Africans over that of indentured whites. So this is going to show kind of a transitional point, which is key to my actual research that I'm doing. The article also focused on Barbados itself as a penal colony for slaves. And I believe that each of these articles bring a lot of value to my project. Each, of course, offer numerous other cited sources, so this is going to be the bigger gain, I believe, at the end of the day. But some of the other databases seemingly offered more resources upon the initial search when we used them in the past, like JSTOR and some of the others. But this database did offer some value, and it did add some extra resources, I believe. But I would add that 2 of the 4 sources that I actually have listed in my post here took me to JSTOR for the actual article or the actual journal. So if the latter determined to be the case with the majority, it might be best to start off with JSTOR database than start with this database. Thank you.